Hello. This is
Hello.
this. Hi. This is Fam Electric Ghost. We have VIO on the line.
Uh, Violeta. This is Violet and Gary.
Okay, good. So you're
Hi,
going. Hi, Gary. Um,
I like your work. I've been checking it out.
oh, thank you very much.
Ve- Very cool, raw, analog, digital shit going on, man.
That's what I. That's my mantra. My mantra is analog most of the time. I do use digital sense, but I'm heavily into modes right now. I just got a grandmother. Um, So I've integrated it into my Eurorack, and I've been kind of going crazy with it. Yeah, so I'll just give a brief preview. I am Fam Electric Ghost. I'm an electronic music musician and producer, and I have had this podcast since 2018. We have over 22,000 listeners on 11 podcast platforms, and Anchor FM is part of Spotify. So
Right.
what we do is we interview indie musicians from around the world, and we've been doing so, like I said, since 2018. So tonight we have VIO, and we have Gary Vail. You are part of her project, her band?
Yes, I'm the guy that plays organic live instrumentation
Oh,
in her
cool.
performances.
Oh, great. So I was reading a little bit on your bio on your webpage for VIO, and it says a niche of traditional electronic pop, echoing everything from Tiffany to Birthday Massacre. And the write-up was talking mostly about your Black Violet album, but I'm going to go through the questions that we usually start with every artist we talk to. So for the whole project, what I usually talk to is like the lead singer or anybody in the band that wants to talk to about it. But when did you first get into music, and at what age? And this is for VIO or yourself.
Okay. I first got into music when I was a kid. I joined the choir and all that stuff. And my mother was a singer, so I just definitely been doing, music off and on since I was a kid in the choirs and then stage theater after that.
Yeah, I was
What did
reading. Yeah. So in your background, you kind of talked about in 2006 is like your key year, but prior to that, you were starting when you were really young. But professionally is 2006 the primary year you really launched everything.
Yes, yes.
But like you said, when you're in your early days, part of my questions I always go into is like when you first get into music, like how did you realize you had a talent for writing your own music? Because a lot of people they learn other people's music, or they do cover bands. But a lot of, I talk to singer songwriters, and I'm always interested in what kind of keys you off in terms of I want to write my own music. You have your own project you want to do. When did you decide you wanted to do that?
It was like 2006 or 7. I really wasn't sure if I could do it, so I decided to, try to do it, and it just happened that way.
Cool. So did you have any mentors? It was all kind of just like you found the right people along the way.
I would say I found the right people along the way. I don't feel I had any mentors. Kind of just was, music was always in our family,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother was a singer, and so was my dad off and on. But
Yeah,
I don't know, it just seems like it came naturally.
so your dad was in the Crowns, right? The 1950s band in Los Angeles. It was a teen band.
No, it was just a high school talent show one-off thing,
Oh,
and they were in a band called the Crowns for the talent show.
okay.
And but yeah, definitely. I wish they had done some, shows out of high school, but they just,
Mm-hmm.
they won in the talent show there, and I think in another high school they won.
But having musicians in your family, did they encourage you, or or did they say, well, you shouldn't do that because of their experience?
No, nobody. I mean, my mother encouraged me to, be on stage theater, get on stage theater with her because she was also doing stage theater, a combination of musicals, but nobody ever encouraged me. I kind of just pushed myself, because it was part-time for everyone else.
So I was reading that you met your first producer, Mark Scarborough, aka Scobra, when you wrote your first two tracks, Keep on Loving and Don't Say That. So did you want to maybe talk about that?
Sure. I basically put out back in the day a MySpace ad for someone who wanted to produce my tracks, and back in MySpace, I got a MySpace message response from a local producer, and then we started working together.
And that's when you first called yourself VIO?
Yeah, he actually came up with that name, or a abbreviation of that name, or.
And you decided to stick with it since that point, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So then it says that you actually worked with Tupac Shakur's former manager.
I did creative writing. Sorry?
At these, it was said it was at the mic sessions where you honed your performance in writing art. Leila Steinberg's mic sessions.
I took creative writing classes at Leila Steinberg's mic sessions. They were called mic sessions, recording. We had like sessions of writing and stuff that we would do, creative writing sessions. Yes. And she was Tupac's former manager at the time. Well, not at the time, but former.
And then from there in 2009, you were like the first and only female artist signed to Intertech Records out of Big Bear, California.
Yes, that's true. Uh-huh.
And then you had that Don't Say That release, and you design and do your own artwork for your releases, right? And is that still true? You do that?
Yeah, I do. I do all the design and artwork. I'm also a painter and artist, so I try to keep up on that art world as well.
That's cool. I'm really into that. A lot of the ghost stuff is stuff I do myself as well. But so then you also collaborated with Greg Ripes of Kevorkian Death Cycle, who it said basically had studied under Richie Wise, who was a record producer for Kiss. And they worked on the single Foreshadow, which is part of the EP Black Violet, right? So maybe you want to talk about that whole phase and project.
Yeah, basically Greg Ripes and I wrote that song together, and we started working on the beats as just went to his studio, and he had analog synthesizers everywhere. And
I love those.
Yeah, me too. So there was just analog synths that he started writing some melodies on, and I came up with some words for it. So that's how that went.
So do you primarily work in studios? Because some people today, I talk to a lot of bands, they use digital audio workstations. They're like in Pro Tools or they're in FL Studio. But it's interesting you mentioned analog synths because sometimes they only exist in a studio, because they're kind of pricier or they're hard to find. So is that your typical process? Do you go to a recording studio and you use gear within the studio?
Sometimes, or I've been known to go to a park, or go sit by a pool in the backyard, or what have you.
Multiple ways of playing. So do you
Mr.
guys,
Phantom,
yeah,
Mr. Phantom Electric Ghosts, I'm going to interject here.
Yep.
Not only because Violeta is taking a sip off of her beverage and dealing with things here, but this is Gary Vail, by the way. I play guitar and other things with her. it's important you understand that with her creative process on these songs, you mentioned Greg Ripes and the song Foreshadow. A lot of these songs that she's recorded, as a guy that's learned them and, kind of, actualizes them in our live shows, I've kind of gotten turned on to these people, and I go to their pages and their SoundClouds and their whatevers, and I check out their stuff because I really dig that Foreshadow song. And I'm like, hey, man, who is this guy? Let's work him into the fold because this is really awesome. And all of these people that she kind of works with, I listen to their other stuff. They're all really talented, but I don't hear what I hear when they work with VIO. She kind of has a very cool, offhanded, happenstance artistic spin on things. And all of the stuff you hear on her records, there are these different producers on each track, and they're all doing kind of their thing. But oh, what a coincidence that when they do their VIO track, it sounds different than their own stuff. Because she just kind of has a very, dare I say, elementary way of coming up with her lyrics and her melodies on their thing that really makes it different than the other stuff they're doing. So when you listen to her record, there's kind of a continuum vibe going on that makes you think that there's, an entourage working on these songs, but really the entourage is her. And it's kind of cool how she kind of brings that to whoever she works with, So as the guy that kind of makes that happen live, it's kind of cool to be that guy, because she's kind of got that going on.
That's interesting because I'm a music historian and I used to read about Bowie, and Bowie would bring that to a project. He assembled musicians from multiple areas. Sometimes you'd have like hard rock guys, or you'd have soul guys like Luther Vandross, and he could kind of mold the sound, and he would totally mold it. Even though he's with all these professional musicians, it's a Bowie project. So it sounds like you have like VIO. You have a vibe. You have a sense of what you want to do. You're a singer-songwriter and you know what you want. So when you work with a producer, they don't totally take over your sound. That's what it sounds like you're talking about. That you still drive the creative process because you know what you want.
Right.
That's cool.
But yes.
Yeah, I'm always very interested in that because I hate the kind of cookie cutter nature of some of the music that's out there today, where you got some producers that just kind of force their style on everybody. And, that's what they want to do. And people go to it because that's what they want. But I've always been somebody that's very drawn into singer-songwriters, kind of showing my age. I grew up in the age of, vinyl, where you would listen to a whole project all the way through. And, we had listened to Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, or listen to Tapestry, or listen to, any of the great albums that go from the past, from Sgt. Pepper's to Electric Ladyland. And I was very much keyed into, like, every singer-songwriter is kind of like an author. They create their great piece of work, and you really need to listen to the whole thing through. But a lot of times today, projects are very much single-oriented, kind of like the 50s. But it's cool to see that you have this kind of cohesive concept around your music, which I would just point out that Gary kind of really stated very well.
Oh, thank you. We try.
So I was just getting back to the questions I usually go to, but we can always go a little bit off track. But your influences, like I mentioned when I was reading, that you have your write-up, you mentioned you name checked Tiffany and Birthday Massacre. Are there other musicians that you were inspired by in the work that you're doing?
Can you repeat that last question
The
about
question is kind of like
Birthday Massacre?
reference points in your music. In your write-up, there's VIO is basically your write-up on your website says that you kind of are Tiffany was name checked and Birthday Massacre were name checked. But I was asking, are there other musicians that you were influenced by?
Oh no, I didn't.
I think we're alone now.
No, I didn't put that down. That's funny. That's I never.
Well, that's actually on your website. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. On my web, Tiffany. Like I think we're alone now, Tiffany.
It says, I mean, what's written up on your website. There's a statement that talks about your musical genres have coalesced into something pointed, and VO is a niche of traditional electro pop, echoing everything from Tiffany to the Birthday Massacre. Now, I don't know if somebody else wrote that for you, but that's
You know,
right.
maybe that was a comment from a fan or something. I don't draw inspiration from them, but that maybe it was a fan quote.
Yeah, it was associated with ADSR Records out of London, so maybe they wrote that.
Oh yeah, they wrote that. The British kids over there wrote that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where they thought I sounded similar to that. That's what they
Yeah,
quoted.
but I was just trying to get from you. I always ask artists that I interview, who are their heroes, who are they inspired by, where do you kind of pick up your reference points from?
Right.
So I saw that on your write-up, so I didn't know, like, I wanted to ask you more about like what you would say.
Oh no problem, man. Yeah, no, that was someone else who was comparing me to those bands, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, my influences have ranged from Joy Division to New Order, Love and Rockets.
Awesome.
Depeche Mode.
That's totally. I've been listening to Joy Division's first record for the last 2 months, thinking that maybe I wanted to do a cover of Disorder, because I really love Disorder. I think that's one of the best songs in their catalog. But yeah, I just love that how they merged into, New Order after the tragedy. But that type of raw, like new wave, kind of like pre-industrial sound, to me kind of is like a precursor to Nine Inch Nails. A precursor to what you can be in the new wave, new romantic sound, and how you can be very powerful. That it doesn't just have to be kind of dreamy; it can be very jarring. And I was always very impressed with Joy Division growing up, and also Depeche Mode and any of those bands in that space.
Yeah, really. Sorry.
No, I really don't hear a lot of artists actually name checking them anymore. So that's very cool.
Oh yeah, I definitely love, I'm influenced by Susie the Banshees and Frontline Assembly, B&B Nation, and even stuff that's old and acoustic sounding as the Sundays. I love.
Oh, that's cool.
And Cocteau Twins.
Yeah, I kind of show my age. I'm a big fan of like Alex Chilton and Big Star, like Big Star's Third, just because of the kind of the melodies and the fact that not a lot of people know the songs, but there was just something about it. They're kind of like a modern Velvet Underground. If you ever gotten into Big Stars, like they were, Alex Chilton from the Box Tops went and created like a Beatles clone that was actually better than Badfinger. And they did 3 albums that really didn't go anywhere because they were on Stax, which Stax is really a soul label, and they didn't really know how to market a band from the South that sounded like the Beatles. But
hey, you know what's cool is again is the guy that's got to like play live music with her on this stuff. Her songs really kind of translate in different ways. I mean, I'm playing electric guitar on a lot of this stuff, and her and I, like for example, in the fall, we did we got together on the beach me with an acoustic guitar and her just singing. And, because as much as the influences are a big deal, I think the songs and how they translate are like the biggest of all deals. And it's pretty cool how like Vio and I can get together and like just the two of us play music in different formats. And her whole thing kind of translates no matter what we do. I mean, I can have like my electric set up with like a pedal board bigger than all three of us and do our thing in front of a live audience, or just an acoustic guitar like on the beach with her singing. And it's kind of cool how like the songs translate no matter like how we play them. So I think just like the melody and the songcraft kind of shine above all of this sort of influence stuff. That's the beauty of it all for me anyways.
Yeah, I understand. Like singer-songwriter songcraft is a kind of core. And if you're a musician and you're somebody that just you do the music because you love to do it, then you can shine in multiple areas. You can do like unplugged on the beach. You can do electric. You can do acoustic. You mix genres, and it's all a lot of art that I like seems to be kind of like artists can be like very improvisational. I love jazz like Sun Ra and Davis and Coltrane, and a lot of it's a very you'll have a structure, but you kind of go wherever the song is going to take you. And you might do a song on the beach different than you do electrically, or different than you do in the studio, different than it was from the demo. And fans kind of appreciate when a band doesn't just keep on running the sequencer, actually plays the song because the way they felt that night, they did the song a different way.
All right. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, just having a little technical difficulty here. Just make sure you're still on.
Yeah, I was just talking. Maybe did you drop off?
You want to know the best thing ever?
Well, we're going to tell you what just happened.
I'm going to tell you the best thing ever. We have candles lit all over the place, and I just spilled candle wax all over the device we're talking to you on.
Oh, okay, that's what happened.
It doesn't get better than that.
Well, I still heard you.
It's like a real review of what really goes. All of the questions, going on and the answers. That's like the best example ever.
Well, that's a good way to live life. So it sounds like you have a very kind of organic, kind of old school way of recording.
You could say that again.
Yeah, because a lot of people are very structured today. So I have always asked questions about like, well, do you go to the studio? Do you do home recording? Can you kind of you say you do multiple ways of doing it. Can you kind of just give us a brief overview of like, at least for the project we were talking about, for the last project you did, is that the way you would describe what you did for Black Violet? How do you put that together?
That was at different places. A lot of it was written in the studio, the music part, and then I would write some of the melodies outside, let's say. But a lot of it was done in the studio or in, a living room or, just anywhere you could get everything written into recording. Anywhere really, but mostly studios, whether it be home studio, mixed with professional studio.
So when you do a recording session for a project, do you have a bunch of demos that you did prior to going to the studio, or do you go to a session and say, well, I'm just going to create everything at this studio session? Or do you have ideas that you bring there already?
Are you saying, do I come there with pre-ideas already in my head?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you one thing. Some songs are really easy. It's like, Relentless was a song on Black Violet that those words just came to me along with the melody. It all just came to me one night and I wrote it all down. But the other songs were not so easy. Those didn't come to me. Some of them took months to write. Some of them took many tears and struggles just to get out onto paper.
So when you have a song that takes, like, it's a big struggle, like, or it's a big effort, how do you feel about that song versus the song that kind of comes together like seamlessly?
I just wish they were all so easy that I could just that all of them would just come to me so easily. But sometimes it's more fun when you have to think about it and really work at it too. It's a learning process. Black Violet, the title track, I did not. That is the one song that I wrote with Omar Quinones of Vain Machine. He's in the band Vain Machine. He co-wrote the lyrics with me on Black Violet, the title track Black Violet. But the other ones I wrote myself.
Did you do that? Were you in the same space, or were you in different places when you did that?
You mean Omar and I for Black Violet, that song?
Yeah.
So for the song Black Violet, Omar did his part. I sent Omar some lyrics, and he said we agreed that he would rework them, and so he wrote some of his lyrics for that too. He was living in Yucca Valley, California, and I am living in Los Angeles, so it was like 3 hours away, not too much difference.
But that was kind of like over the phone or going back and forth through computer?
Back and forth with the computer mostly.
Yeah,
and then I also did go to their studio to record the final too.
Oh, you did. So you were able to? Did you rework stuff when you got to the studio?
Title track.
What a great song.
So when you did that final session, was there a lot of rework on the final, or did you kind of keep together what you had worked over the net?
There was a lot of work after the final too.
Oh, okay. Post-production.
Sorry, what?
A lot of post-production work that you went back and looked at things and changed things around?
No, not a lot, just a little bit. But I think I had to, I think it was just not too much, but enough to where there was some. It wasn't just done. And Gary Vail here, he did the guitar on Let You Go. That's also one of the songs on Black Violet. Did an excellent job, made that song very organic.
So Gary, maybe
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, how did you come about creating that solo? Was just vibing off the song, or did you really was it just stream of consciousness vibing off what you heard, or did you have to kind of really construct it?
I got to tell you, it's pretty cool playing guitar on her stuff, because a lot of the recordings have no guitar whatsoever. A lot of the producers she works with are basically sitting at an Apple computer and creating sounds. So when they come to me, it's basically up to me to come up with my own devices to, either reproduce things or come up with something else. And I often come up with something else because her stuff is very melodic, and her vocals generally carry the main part of the melody. So it's pretty cool to be able to come up with an instrument melody to go along with what she's doing. And in a live environment, it's a neat challenge to reproduce, 28 tracks of what someone else did on one organic instrument. So, like I said previously, it's kind of a tribute to, is the song good or not? If the stuff wasn't good, I'd be dead in the water right there. But fortunately for me, the stuff is really good. So it gives me a really good palette to kind of expound on melodies and vibes and sounds and, all that stuff, to just kind of go off and do my thing. And it's been, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years of live shows doing stuff with her and some studio stuff. And it makes for a really good partnership. It's kind of a good challenge of laptop versus strings on wood,
Yeah.
And I think in the current age of music, I think that's a challenge that we'll hear a lot more about.
Yeah, it's interesting because So when you were putting the guitar tracks down, how many like variations or solos did you go through, and then did you have to get like an agreement that like which solo is the best one, or did you just didn't have to do too many? Like how many versions of your solo did you have to put down?
Oh, not many at all. But to be honest with you, only my wife and my dog know that I do a lot of that stuff before it leaves the house, because because quite frankly, showing up to a session with the right thing is a big deal. Yep. And as much as I work on my technique guitar wise, I probably spend a little bit more time idea wise. So things like a proper melody on a guitar, or a proper idea on a guitar, or even hitting a pedal and making like a really perverse noise on guitar, is what turns people on. And as much as I like to act like it's natural, that it doesn't just happen. Yeah. It does take a little bit of time. So I tend to, work on that before I show up, and at the risk of sounding like an ass, because I am one. Normally when I show up and I do that, everybody's like, "Oh, hell yeah. That's cool. Let's go with that,"
Yeah, you take your A game. Well, it's like, I watch a lot of documentaries on, classic musicians, and I was watching a Peter Gabriel, his album So, and they were talking about how they constructed some of the big tracks from that album. And, the drummer was talking about how he kind of just, was told just make it up. And on one of the big hits, but he was an amazing drummer. But then what the producers went and did is they went and sliced up the drum parts from like 99 tapes, and then tape spliced them together, which is kind of nice. That's a real old school kind of like Beatle technique, which sometimes that I kind of like that compared to going into a DAW. I like if you could go back and use analog tape and do stuff like that. I tend to like that type of recording, and I do a lot of stream of consciousness, a lot of live recording, and then I don't use a DAW. I use a Zoom R24, and I punch in and punch out because I'm using analog synths, and I don't like how I get a lot of compression. So I'll do I'll record myself onto a sampler, and then I'll splice it into multiple sections, and then overdub additional analog synth parts, and then run through different filters on my modular synths, and just keep on deconstructing, kind of like Wilco. If you go back, I like doing a lot of kind of strange modulation, weird techniques that I pick up from some of the old school progressive rockers. But I really that's kind of my vibe. And it's hard today because a lot of people are like, well, where are your MIDI instructions? I'm like, well, everything's like WAV file.
Yeah, baby.
But that's the way I roll. But
you're turning me on over here.
I've been recording since I was 17 using, go back in the day. I had a DX7 and a D50, and and then I started moving backwards and getting, Model Ds and stuff. But I just find that that's where it's at right now, with Model Ds and grandmothers and matriarchs and stuff like that, and Prophet 5s and 6s. That's kind of my head. But
okay. I'm kind of with you, man, because I grew up in the analog universe as well, so I dig that. And I gotta say, as the world continues to, wow over, Snapchat sound bites, and how many Instagram hits did you get, and all this stuff, I'm noticing that an analog, I'm a guitar player, so I'll relate to that. As an analog, wire string on a piece of wood, organic, musical moment enhances all of that. I'll say that in the world we're in right now, the dichotomy of how those two worlds meet, there's something magical going on there. And I don't think any of us have figured it out yet, but I'm kind of getting off on the challenge. You know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of cool. I mean, I'll just go off a little bit. It's like today, if people realize the ARP 2600 was re-released by Korg, and that's a classic machine that like Stevie Wonder used and all these art rockers used, and it's a full analog, like massive mono synth that is like super powerful, and pure analog signal. And you know, Moog has been releasing things, Prophet's been releasing things. You know, there's all these old school synths from the 70s. I mean, this is the 1971 synth. It's been re-released. And, you know, he's trying to find an old ARP. You know, if you could listen to Intervisions or listen to songs in the Key of Life and get an idea of what that thing can sound like. Yeah, there's a reason to have those instruments rather than using plugins. Just because you can't recreate that kind of stuff with a plugin. And, you know, I'm a kind of an old school guy, so I'm always pushing that. But yeah, there is a merging of people using FL Studio with somebody having a Moog, a mini Moog, or somebody using a, you know, a Prophet 5 and somebody using Pro Tools. Because it's, you use the tools you have. There's stuff you can do digitally you can't do with analog. And so, yeah, of course, if there's stuff I want to do with samples, there's stuff I want to do with, you know, really advanced digital synthesis, you know, like you do linear synthesis or you do frequency modulation or wavetable synthesis. Yeah, digital synth is going to be way better. But there's analog stuff, like an analog bass line is always going to kick. An analog lead from a mini Moog is always going to be there for me. But the modern stuff, you still want it for certain things. It's just kind of like not all or nothing. It's kind of all everything. But
yeah, man. I've noticed that your stuff, because I've been checking out your stuff, the audio is very like out front and loud to a point of sexually annoyance. You know what I mean? I dig that.
Well, I kind of have a punk aesthetic. I grew up liking bands like Husker Du, and
yeah,
like the Replacements and the Clash.
Bob Mould all the way, baby.
Yeah, and so I grew up like I have a punk aesthetic when it comes to my synth, and I kind of run things, you know, run in the red line. Just because I think you can be like Trent Reznor, you can prove that synthesizers can be as aggressive as anything Black Flag ever did, or anything Husker Du did, or Orange 9mm, any of those bands. So I felt that I was a frustrated guitar player, and I played synths, and I said, well, I'm going to make my synths rock as hard as any guitar, and that's what I try to do.
Hell yeah, good job.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, let me get back to your album. So Black Violet on Bandcamp, which we're going to push your Bandcamp, because one of the cool things about this podcast is we can put all your links. So all your hyperlinks will be clickable. So Bandcamp is your primary distribution method, right? For everything you're doing?
Yes.
Is Black Violet like the primary or the latest project, or you've got other projects on the way?
Black Violet is the primary latest one, yes.
So is there anything on the works for 2020?
Yeah, there's maybe a single or two kind of trying to come out, you know, really, and perhaps a secret side project as well in the works.
Cool. So have you been touring primarily the Los Angeles area, or are you going beyond that with your music?
We actually have gone a little bit beyond. We went to Ventura and Orange County. We need to get out of state sometime.
Are you looking
primarily Los Angeles, though?
Primarily okay. Los Angeles, Hollywood. We did go to Ventura and the OC before.
Well, you're in a great area. It's like New York. I mean, if you're like I'm on the East Coast, so New York is the big draw. You know, Boston's like maybe second, but New York's where I like to play the most. But LA is, you know, that's like pinnacle. Terry, you're like being in London. You know, you got a lot of places to play.
Right.
So have you played like the Whiskey a Go Go and the places like that? They're like, you know, the real big kind of known places. Or they?
We played the House of Blues that's now closed down.
Oh,
House
okay.
of Blues. We played the Viper Room before, yes.
Oh, Viper, yeah. These are all the ones everybody knows. Like they, you know, from the East Coast, are like, oh, I want to get to the Viper Room.
Yeah, you know, you got to know the Whiskey a Go Go is kind of a heavy metal,
It's
dare I
more,
say, 80s. Yeah, it's almost an 80s metal kind of a place.
oh,
Um,
they're stuck in that.
yeah, a little bit. Um, you know, in terms of notable venues, you know, we've done the House of Blues on Sunset a couple of times, I think. So that's cool. But for our, you know, being Los Angeles based, our fan base is Los Angeles based, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, they're not the more touristy style venues. And there's kind of an underground scene going on
But that's probably
here.
better scene to be in.
Yeah, you know how that goes. I'm sure if you live in New York,
Yeah.
you know to get the hell out of Times Square. Same story, you know.
Well, actually, a
So
lot of electronic musicians, we play like Fat Baby. We play the smaller clubs, like 300, 400 seat clubs, not the super big ones.
yeah, and I'm sure that's where the real action is going on, you
Well,
know.
that's where you meet other musicians that are doing what you're doing. Like if I want to meet other modular synth, like analog synth guys, they're playing like Fat Baby, playing like CBGBs. They're playing the smaller places. You know, they're not playing
Yeah.
the big venues.
Well,
They're playing this no hole in the wall, playing bars in Brooklyn and stuff.
Right.
You know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know those venues. Not being a New Yorker, but we don't want to just play for other musicians, you know. We want to turn people on to music who are into live music. But we've been fortunate to play a lot of really cool venues here in the Los Angeles area that, you know, if you're not here, you're not familiar with, but that's fine.
That's where you pay your dues. Like, you know, if you're working musician, you want to play. You don't just, the way the world is today. You can go on your Facebook, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Vimeo, you do your videos. You know, that's a different type of marketing strategy to get your stuff out there. I do my Facebook live performances for my home studio to kind of get my fans going when I'm not doing live shows. But yeah, well, what do you think about things like that? Have you thought about like doing like a Facebook live, like unplugged or even plugged in performance and streaming it to your fans in that
Yeah,
kind of
we
way?
actually, all of our peers are doing it, and we see we need to start doing it too, you know, for fun as well as for professional perspective.
Yeah, I actually started on Periscope like 2 years ago, and I would just like live stream recording sessions from my studio. And then I get up, I have this whole thing where, I'm a fan of Electric Ghost. I wear this LED outfit with a Phantom mask and gloves and a hoodie and all this stuff just to have stagecraft. But yeah, I found I would get like, 5,000 people watching. And then it kind of helped me get this podcast and, expand and, I got a distribution contract. And it was just because I kept on doing all these live performances on my Facebook.
That's cool, man.
And you there's equipment. I mean, I just use a cell phone on a tripod with a roll and go mixer, not to plug them, but but you can get a really good soundboard recording from your instruments and have like quarter-inch lines coming from your guitars or your synths going right into the feed and controlling the levels, and because of that, you make sure you actually have a decent sound. And it's really cool because you can actually practice a live show before you get to the show.
Right.
and then you can get your fans in on unplugged performances. You can preview new songs. You can see what the reaction is to new material before you put it down. And it's a pretty cool world that way. I think that has kind of been a big equalizer in terms of you can get your fan base really motivated with a lot of new material that doesn't necessarily have to get published by your label, but they can get into what you're doing. So I think that seems to be the kind of future of music is streaming and getting onto these social media sites a lot of bands can kind of control their own marketing.
God bless the technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, you've
Yep.
been on Bandcamp for a while. So you think Bandcamp is a better venue for you as a band?
It is because they allow so much profit for the artist, whereas on streaming, there's not much profit for the artist
Yeah,
per
streaming's
play.
more like the radio. It seems like streaming's like the radio to kind of get your name out there, but it's not really a profit like proposition. Because
Yeah.
even if you're a big band, you don't make the money that if you actually sell T-shirts, you can make more money selling T-shirts. I can make more money selling T-shirts in New York City than I do for my Spotify.
Yeah.
I make more money, from something like Bandcamp or from like Anchor FM as a podcaster than I do on my streaming income. It's like if I sell a CD through Amazon that I burned myself, I make more money doing that, which is interesting. That the streaming gets you out there, so you get people to know who you are. Like I say, it's like the radio, but it doesn't really get you the income stream you need as an artist, which would be good if something could change that way, because it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it needs to get better for us all, right?
Well, you need to get people. But I had a conversation, because I'm in my day job. I'm an IT guy. I'm a programmer, and I was talking to some guys that do video games, and the big new thing is, a lot of the young kids they spend $50-$60 on a video game, but they won't buy a CD, right? And so I was saying, he's like, are you guys thinking of actually working with musicians to bring like new songs into these games and actually pay us better than we get paid on streaming sites? And they are. A lot of video game companies are looking to bring artists and have songs released through the games.
Oh,
And
wow. To bring those artists into the video?
Yeah, you get higher royalty rates than you do through Spotify. If you got into a game and actually put the song into the game, you can get more.
I'm of the impression that video gaming is a lot like gangs or fashion or a lot of that stuff, where it's kind of a who are you in the game sort of a thing.
Yeah, they're indie companies though. They're indie companies outside the big rock star companies that the big ones. They're smaller ones that do games that go on cell phones and smartphone games. There's all different types of level of gaming, and so there's just another market for getting music out there. If you can get your music onto a game that's maybe a cell phone based game, not a PS4 or an Xbox game or something, it just gets you another venue that potentially can get your music into a wider area. It's like sync licensing, if you
Well, what's hard is as a fan and a worker on the VIO music brigade, I have to say, we're kind of transcending a sound bite is a big deal sort of music here. There's sort of a melody payoff, time invested kind of a thing. There's truly a song element. The bad news is video games don't really acknowledge invest time in a melody and hear the payoff and the feeling that comes from it.
One of the options though is to actually have full songs like playing in the background. Like
I dig that. I dig that.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is people actually being able to have like a jukebox and pay for songs and actually have them playing the whole song and while they're playing the game, and then paying the artist for the use of that song. So it's not just like a 10-second clip; it's actually the whole song being played, because kids play for hours. So if you get a kid playing for like 8 hours, 6 hours, and they go in and they're picking their favorite songs, and they want to be able to pick indie songs that are kind of underground songs. They don't want to just pick what's the latest top 10. If you get that indie song into that game, available to that consumer so they can listen to it in the game, the full entirety of the song, it's a different way of getting money. So is this a different way of, think of it as another streaming platform, but you get more money for it.
Yeah, I totally dig that. I totally dig that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I dig that. As someone who's exposed to a young gamer in the gaming world, because the attention span of that world is similar to that of a gnat.
Yeah.
And I love gnats, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I try not to swat them when I don't have to.
Me too.
But the kind of what's going on here is a little bit more of a kind of a soup that's better than microwave instant soups, you know. So
yeah, I mean, I would prefer.
I don't know that we're quite set up for that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But you know, you bring up a good point. Maybe we should look into that a little bit more.
Well, it's just good to figure out where you can get if you can get your song into an indie film, if you can get your song into advertising, you know, just because that's sync licensing is the only way we really make any money as musicians, compared to like other types of money that we can get.
Yeah.
And so
really fine line between internet monetary smarts and being true to yourself as an artist, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
if I knew the answer to that, we all wouldn't be here, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you do the music because you love to do music, and then you hope you find an audience. But then you have to think about, well, where can I get this music? And you, as an artist, you want to get the music to your fan base, but you want to be able to do what you want to do, and you don't want to necessarily become like a corporate musician, but you want to be able to be profitable and make a living at it. And so, like, a lot of times, like, you know, I want people to listen to my whole project. So I want them to buy the CD or buy the vinyl because the whole project had meaning. But then, you know, people just want to take one song and put it on a playlist. And that's the nature of the way things are. But if you can drive them through doing like a Facebook show and then show them that these songs go together, then maybe they'll decide, oh, yeah, I do want to hear these songs together. And so you just have to find ways to draw the audience to see your vision as an artist. And you use all the tools that are out there to do it. You know, I just think that's the opportunity, I think, for the artist in 2020 is to take everything that's out there and kind of drive the audience to you. You know,
yeah, and I'm listening to whole albums, and I want people to listen to the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. Just because, I mean, I think the hip hop community has been able to get people to listen to a lot of hip hop rap albums are albums that are meant to be heard all the way through. Kind of like the way rock albums like Tommy or Quadrophenia or any of the old classic Pink Floyd albums, people would actually sit down with the vinyl and listen all the way through to the wall, or, you know, because that's the way it's meant to be heard. A lot of times with modern pop music, you don't have a lot of albums today that would drive somebody to do that.
Yeah, I know.
But the hip hop community has been able to do it. So I think there is an audience out there that was willing to do it, but we maybe have to engage them in a different way because they're willing to buy.
You know, you bring up a hip hop, and I don't know what that has to do with the fact that my opinion of it is the internet in general has kind of made all of our attention spans that of a gnat, you know, which I brought up earlier. And I think that's where the dichotomy between clicking on something for 15 seconds to see if it's worth the shit and listening through an album is kind of a big deal. And it's hard as an artist to come up with a bunch of songs to romance people into a vibe. I don't know when the last time you got laid was, or romance a woman out of her pants, but it generally takes more than 46 seconds. And that seems to be where the internet community hits the back button and gets out of whatever it is. So it's this attention span thing which I think transcends hip hop. It's kind of a weird issue we have right now, where people don't want to spend more than 30 seconds looking into something. It's really frustrating. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
you
think
feel the need to
yeah.
blow something up. You know,
Well,
like
I
have a
think
naked girl and a puppy dog and
or
President Trump and everything else all showing up in the first 20 seconds, all like blowing up in some sort of orgasm explosion to get people's attention. Where a true artist kind of has a way of romancing you in and creating a profound moment in more than 20 seconds. How to connect those dots, I think, is the true challenge right now.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would say there are some artists, you know, like I mentioned, like for some reason within the rap community, there are projects where people will listen to the whole project. They don't just jump around.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to be like the content and where the kids are today, something that will drive them into that. When you get, you know, like there's artists like you know, that you might not be into, but like Odd Future and Tyler the Creator, he gets people to listen to his entire projects. They'll listen to the whole albums because they have concepts. And I come back from the progressive rock era, where you listen to Yes album all the way through. You listen to Lamb Lies Down on Broadway from Genesis because that's the way it's meant to be heard. And you know, people my age that still like those bands will go to see a Yes concert because they want to hear Fragile all the way through. But getting the younger generation to want to do that is harder. It's people my age that want to see those progressive rock bands play that way. My fans tend to be people who like to do that. I have kind of a niche. It's harder to convert the younger folks into that. But it seems to be the way things are going.
Indeed, yes.
So that's interesting. That you guys bring up a lot of cool things that I haven't talked to. A lot of artists I've talked to lately have been on a different vibe. They've been in a different place, so it's cool to talk to different people. I've talked to many different people in all different types of music genres, from like EDM DJs to punk rockers to pure rock bands. So it was great to have you on, and this is going to get published tonight within the next hour, and we'll send you the link. Like I said, I'll put the hyperlink to your website and your Bandcamp and your Facebook.
And my Instagram too is VIO Music.
Yeah, I'll put that
Thank
on
you.
as well. So it was great having you on, VIO and Gary. And I hope to talk to you if you have another project that you want to push in 2020. We've tended to have people come on the show multiple times if they have different projects they want to push.
All right, man. Definitely, you know, the new single that I have tried to release is called Just For You.
Oh, cool. When's the target date for that?
I would say summer solstice 2020.
Cool. Yeah, we get close to that. Give us a ring on our Instagram, and we can do a prep to kind of pre-release, talk it up.
We just had a couple shows in Old Town, Pasadena. So right now we don't have anything scheduled, but we'll let you know. And Costa Mesa, we just got done with all that. So we'll let you know if there's anything new, man. Thank you so much. It's great to be on your show.
We love your show.
Thank you very much. We'll have you on again when you guys wanted to come on. So just let us know.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Okay. Have a great night.
Yeah.
You as well.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.